the 40k Fireside podcast, where we discuss everything to do with competitive Warhammer 40k with your hosts Vic VJ and David Gaylord.
Hey, and welcome everyone, as I swap to the correct scene. Welcome back everyone. Sorry I've been a little bit inactive for a while here. We've had the WTC on, I've had a bunch of live stuff going on, learning how to be a new dad, and yeah, here we are back at it. Now I had some really great feedback on the current state of series I did, especially with the Space Marine one, and then I did a little bit of a deep dive on Black Templars, kind of going through everything that I've learned there. So I've tried to take a bit more time, distill my information on slides here, do a little bit more of a long format, and I think people have been really appreciating that. So it's about time. I did my State of Imperial Guard, the other faction I've played a lot, and what most people know me for. But the truth of the matter is actually that I've fallen out of love a little bit with Guard because, I've just played them so much. I haven't played Guard for definitely well over a month now, and frankly I've been really enjoying getting to learn some other factions, playing other factions at tournaments, and I feel like it's really helped me develop as a player. But nevertheless, I still know like my back like the back of my hand, of course, here. And the reality is that a lot of these lists haven't really changed that much, right? Combined Arms, Hammer, Mechanized Assault, and Recon all have the very same principles. And frankly, if you took a list from 3 months ago or even a month after the Codex drop, points changes aside, it's probably a perfectly competitive list, and arguments back and forth as to whether or not it would be better. So there hasn't really been a ton of innovation in the faction, and I think that that's because the meta really and usually dictates the ways in which Guard has to build. And we're going to go into that in a little bit here. But nevertheless, we've had the WTC, and the WTC is a really interesting time to look at some builds and see what has been popular in the teams format, and we can probably see and extrapolate some ideas from the WTC and apply that to a singles format. So this video will be a combination of both teams and singles data, and we're going to kick it right off with some WTC data. So let's jump in. Before I jump in, I always forget, like and comment, subscribe. It all really helps the channel out. The channel's been growing massively recently. I also forgot, on our Discord, if you're a Discord member, we have a 60 plus person internal tournament coming up. I have 40k Fireside store credit for the top like 1, 2, 3 places. I'm doing painting miniatures for the first, second, and third place winners. And in addition to that, I am trying to secure a sponsor, hopefully from a painting sponsor. I've contacted them, people that I really like, to sponsor some prizes for the top place as well. So we've got so much good shit happening over there. It's really awesome place to be. And consider checking out 40kfireside.com. Okay, back into it. WTC data. Overall kind of perspective here from WTC, and what some of the takeaways were for it from my perspective. I'm going to distill them down for you here. Okay. WTC, here we go. It's the penultimate event of the year, and once you've gone, you kind of understand why. So I wanted to look at some individual players here. Now I know almost all of these guys, and have played against almost all of them, and so I kind of know their play styles. And first up, we see the most overarching picture is the vast majority of people and players took Combined Arms. What would that be? Well, the meta, expectedly so, is very thick and vehicle driven, right? So, double knights, we've got Death Guard, we've got even Necrons, Star Shatter in there, Marines to some extent. So, really, Combined Arms is going to be the detachment which has the best stratagem use for the volume of dudes, right? In terms of the respawn on the 20 Deathcroft Creek, but it can reliably shoot out some of these larger targets just because it has lethals, right? So it's a huge boon in damage when you're playing Combined Arms into a potential matchup like that. So we obviously have, the standout list of this tournament with some pretty varied results, and I'll get to it, but that's Nico from Team France. So congratulations to France again, winning back-to-back. If you check out the WTC prelude episode, Vic and I almost got the predictions 100% right on the podium placements there, or top 5. So anyway, back to it. Now, we've got Nassim, who is, one of the best guard players in the world here. He's gone with combined arms, but a bit of a different build. He's rocking up with the 12 bullgryn here. So this is pretty fascinating. I think England were in an interesting state this year, and Nassim was probably going to be quite commonly playing against people that were... He was probably significantly better than. Nassim's an absolutely excellent player, of course. So I think he went with a build that can bully a little bit more of these skirmishing armies, and if it really push comes to shove, he could probably play against something like knights. So if we look here, Nassim played my teammate, Myson from Team Poland. He got an 8-12 versus Aeldari. I mean, it just goes to show kind of what that matchup is like, right? I mean, even with 12 bullgryn, 8-12 against Aeldari. I mean, I don't know who went first or second in there. It's kind of interesting. Took home an 11-9 versus Imperial Knights, and there was Arne on Imperial Knights from Team Germany. So that, I would say, has got to be representative of Nassim's matchup in general, I would assume, because both of those players are absolutely stellar pilots. And then we've got a 15-5 versus Thousand Suns, and that's where I think where Nassim's list probably shines a lot. The Bullgryns, he's got... we're going to go into his list later on, but he's got, 3 chimeras and 3 Kasrkins. So he's got a huge amount of mid-board pressure, and if he goes first, he's got a very aggressive list here. Okay, next up, another player, Gustavo, from our Discord actually as well. A lovely guy, and he's playing combined arms with a bit of a different spin on it. We've got his list later on. He is playing a much more mechanized build, so he's able to hunt those knight matchups a lot better, but I would say he's probably a little bit more volatile to some of these like top-end skill matchups like Aeldari, for example, or like Thousand Suns, for example, whereas I think Nassim's build is a little bit better against those. So he's done really, really well. I mean, he's 18, 12, 13, 18, 18. Portugal is primarily playing in the second half of C2, or basically smack bang in the middle of C2 to the lower half of C2. And so I'm not sure on his matchups he got exactly, but I mean, just going to show that Guard on maybe the right boards can play. It's still a huge game. And in general, we saw Guard perform very, very well, right? Okay. Next up, we've got Pikachu. I'm going to call him Pikachu. He's from Thailand. Lovely guy, actually. I met him at Warhammer World Champs a couple of years back. Big Astra fan. He's been playing Astra for a long time, playing combined arms. And as you can see, lossless here as well. And then the last, we've got John Winter Russell, also went with combined arms as well for Team Canada. Canada did amazingly this year. It's great to see them have such an awesome performance. Scotland, who did a lot better this year as well. I'd be interested to see what the 0 was, but that may be... I don't want to say that was a Germany round, but anyway. And last up, we have Nico. So this is really interesting to me. Nico, playing on Team France, has got to be one of the best players in the world by default here, and he's chosen to bring Recon. Now, if you followed my guard work for a while, I've always been a Recon hater. Straight up. Just a Recon hater. And look at some of these results. I mean, so for those that aren't familiar with the WTC, the first 3 rounds are the pod phase, and if we're talking about a Seed 1 team here like France, I'm just going to ignore the pod phase because they're going to be playing against teams that are significantly worse than them. Despite that, still getting 2 10s. Now, after that, though, they have a really hard run, right? I think they played like USA, Germany, Sweden, and then Belgium. By the way, so that's just like the straight grinder, okay? They went straight through the grinder, played all the best teams at the tournament, undisputed, no question about it. 17-3, 16-4. So, I mean, a pretty volatile list here, right? 17-3 against Aeldari. This was against Nick Nanavati, and I saw this pairing come up on screen, and I thought, that is game over for Nick. Nick is a defensive player, and his list is built defensively to try and get points here, and I thought, wow, going against a Recon Guard as Aeldari is super difficult, so a pretty expected result on that one, I would say, 17-3. Next up, we've got 3-17 versus World Eaters. I mean, okay, what are you going to do, right? Forge Fiends are good. This was against Joel Larsen, who from Team Sweden. I probably butchered your names. I'm sorry. Joel is an ex-Magic the Gathering pro player who I used to watch his stuff ages ago, but really great. He's got a couple of games on stream with his World Eaters as well. But just flat out getting destroyed by a combat pressure army with Forge Fiends, right? So Forge Fiends teleporting Bloodletters. I mean, he doesn't even have a huge amount of volume in the Bloodletters. He's got Blood Crushers as well, which can move block. But just Forge Fiends just say no, really, don't they? AP3 with Blast 4 rerolls. See you, mate. Then we've got a 16-4 versus Votann, and I'll get into this in a second, and then a 4-16 versus Blood Angels. So absolutely crumbling to two melee pressure armies. While Worldies is a bit of a combo army, I would say, and then getting an auto win, I would say, against Aeldari, and then potentially jailing versus Votann. So I'd be curious to see if this was a first or second on Votann here. And okay, let me summarize my thoughts here. Recon obviously is good if France are taking it. I wouldn't say that 17-3, 16-4 isn't a stellar performance from a faction, I would say, right? That's not. If that was me, I probably wouldn't go home from my tournament and think, yeah, that was a great list, nailed it, right? But what it does provide is a lot of stress and pairings, right? So it's really hard to know how this list will play, what it'll play into. So it provides a lot of stress when people are playing against it, and it does come from left field. Now, I don't know what the rest of the Matrix looks like. The rest of the Matrix could be amazing. But just based on those results, I feel like maybe Combined Arms, maybe Nassim's build with the no-bullgryn could have been the best choice for WTC overall here, depending on what your team composition was into Knights, for example. Okay, then we have, it was great into Aeldari, so maybe they were looking for an Aeldari answer as well, having said that. So I've contacted Nico to see if I can get his thoughts. If I do get his thoughts, I'll post it at the bottom of this YouTube video. Okay, so Astra had a 43% win rate, 46% loss rate. These are the top scoring players. So you can see Nassim was first on 18th, and then Gustavo on 28th. And there was more Astra players than this, so obviously this looks better because they were winning, because they're the highest scoring people. But just goes to show, there's a lot of breadth in there's a lot of applicability. I wouldn't say breadth, and I think that's particularly because of the meta that we're in currently. Okay, so I wanted to take a look at all the detachments at the moment and have a look through them. This is Combined Arms, and as I haven't updated this slide, there's still a Space Wolf there. So, Nassim. He was playing Cadian Command Squad with Grand Strategist, so triple order, 2 Rogaldorn Tank Commanders, 10 Cadians, 30 Catachan, 20 Deathcore of Krieg, 3 Chimeras, 2x6 no-bullgryn, and 3x10 Gaskin. So, I mean, this list has a lot of forward pressure, but it's very different, right? Nassim isn't playing like the Leman Russ Battle Tank, the Executioner combo, some Hellhounds, as we would probably see in the typical Combined Arms list. The way that this list would play, I would imagine, he's gone for the triple Chimera, triple Kaskin, triple Catachans, which is an interesting tell, right? Here's why. If you scout move your 3 Chimeras with your 3 Catachans in them, you can then, if you go first, almost jail someone instantly with that, right? By moving 6, disembarking 3, moving 9, plus an advance. Then you can advance your Kaskin into those forward Chimeras, order them, and then you get lethal hits against things as well. So you get, like, it turns this Chimera, firing deck 2 Chimera into this kind of toolbox thing. And you could, for example, start with the Kaskin or the Catachan if you want Flamers, for example, there as well, right? So pretty good there. And the Chimeras get lethal. So the Chimeras actually spell out like a good amount of damage. Then we've got 2x6 no-bullgryn. So you're pushing 3 Chimeras up on whatever flanks you want. Then you've got 2x6 no-bullgryn, which stage right into the middle. Sometimes just put them right in the middle if it draws their enemy closer to you, and they can tank a bunch of damage, while your 2 Rogaldorns can really hit with a lot of mid pressure, keeping them free. Then you've got 20 Deathcore of Krieg. You can put that towards your opponent's expansion if there's a good staging rune there to out-OC them, or you could just put that on your expansion. So really aggressive all-round list from Nassim. Doesn't really have a clear weakness to anything per se, I would say, but I would say the differential pushing maybe is not as big in just armies like Knights, for example. Okay, next up we've got Combined Arms with, I'm going to butcher your name, guys, Gustavo Jose Branco Varandas. Okay. That's D'Souza. One butcher I get from the Southern Hemisphere. Don't blame me. Okay, this is a lot more of a standard list, I would say, in my opinion. Rogadorn, Tank Commander, Grand Strat. Ursula Creed, interesting choice. 10 Cadians, 10 Catachan, 20 Deathcore Creek, 2 Chimeras, 1 Taurox, 2 Hellhounds, 30 Gaskin, 2 Leman Russ Battle Tanks, and 1 Scout Sentinel. So, 2 Hellhounds, 2 Battle Tanks, 1 Rogadorn. You can't really play more than 1 Rogadorn on WTC, realistically speaking, especially if you're not playing Hammer. So I think this is a good choice for a list overall here. I'm not particularly sure about the Tech Priest personally. I guess there is probably some tech there in terms of trying to win a hull-to-hull shootout against Knights, for example, or maybe Death Guard, and it gives you a slight lone option there as well. It's interesting that we haven't got any Bullgryn for Gus, and no Scions between the two of them as well. Just a thought. I would, and interesting enough, no Aquilons as well, right? So the list you can see, Gus is a lot more downrange damage, and Nassim definitely going for the forward melee pressure. Okay, that's combined arms. I would say if you're going to a tournament, if it's on UKTC or GW, I would probably favor kind of Gus's style of combined arms here, which I think is close to whatever Nassim was playing originally anyway. Okay, Mechanized Assault. Man, Mechanized Assault stocks have gone down, guys. I absolutely loved the playstyle of this list, but the meta has turned so bad for it. One of Mechanized Assault's worst matchups was just hulls. High wounds, high toughness models, and Death Guard have that in spades, and so do Knights. So it's probably the worst meta trend you could get for an archetype, I would say, which is a big reason I haven't been playing it, to be honest with you. It's kind of difficult to play a game when you need like 4 units to kill 1 unit, and you're playing this kind of like MSU skirmishing build. Having said that, though, I did want to try and update it here. If I was to play Mechanized Assault, I would play something like this, and yeah, you've got to play Canis. So we've got Creed, Rogadorn Tank Commander, 2x10 Catachans, 30 Cassican, 3x3 Ogren, of course, 1 Leman Russ with 3 Flamers, Rogadorn, non-tank commander, 2 Chimeras, a Taurox, and Canis Rex. So from my previous build, this has changed a little bit. The way that it's changed is that I put Canis Rex in place of 2 Leman Russ Vanquishers and a Krieg Heavy Weapon team, basically. Now, if we're going to be playing into metas with big, kind of thick units like Knights, I'm going to need Canis to get through those units for me. I've got a little bit of counterplay here, maybe for killing like a Halverin, for example, like 3 Cassican, a unit of Cassican with a grenade, 4 rerolls to hit wound maybe on an objective can deal with stuff like that. But I really need something that's going to give me like a hard punch, for example. Now, we don't have Fight on Death with Canis here, which is a problem, but he does kind of operate in and of himself. So Canis going to be the one we're going with for this list. It's kind of exactly what it needs, but expect Canis to get nerfed. Hopefully Death Guard Imperial Knights get absolutely nerfed to shit, and Mechanized Assault can come back into the meta a little bit more. Matchup-wise, yeah, it's pretty much losing against most of the stuff. Thousand Suns, I guess it's a little bit more MSU skirmishing, so maybe a 10-10 there. However, it's a really tough slope. So stocks are going down for Mechanized Assault, unfortunately, which is a shame because I love it. It's one of my original innovations in the new codex. Okay, Recon Element. So, I thought what we'd do is take a look at Nico's list for Recon. Now, I think this list could probably apply to most metas, I would say. Now, there is Wesley St. Hines, who has been playing Recon for quite a while. He, from my knowledge, has opted into not playing a shooting back end and just playing all dudes. So I'm not a huge fan of that, and I would love to play with a bit of shooting back end. And so Nico's gone with 2 Rogadorns, one tank commander. Now, I'm not going to bullshit you guys. I haven't played Recon outside of my masterclass original training for it. I'm not a huge fan of it. Primarily because most of my guard play recently has been in singles, where Recon is terrible. Now, against a competitive format, I think it's terrible. Now, Nico's got 60 Cadian shock troops, so that's the main unit of choice here. So you get a good loadout with special weapons and get ignore cover there as well. I'm going to double check that Cadian shock troops are the ignore cover ones. No, it's sticky, of course. Derp. They got rid of the ignore cover one. Good one, David. I do know my shit, trust me. Then we've got 30 Catachans, and then we've got 20, 10, 10, 10, 10 Deathcore of Creek. So 60, 90, 110, 150 dudes, basically. The 150 variant, we'll call it. And then Rogaldor Battle Tank. So, this list, it was interesting when I looked at it. Nico didn't really play against any knight builds after the pod phase. He did play a knight in the knight build in the initial phase, but that would have been against the Seed 4 team and Chaos Knights and got a 19-1. I'm not sure what his matrix looked like overall. I would love to know. I'd love to find out what he thought the good matchups were, particularly if the meta changes. But I think this list does get a lot more leverage out of the meta currently. Like armies like Index, Death Guard, Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, I could see it doing well against. Aeldari in particular. But I could see it having some terrible matchups like we've seen as well. So a very flippy binary matrix for this one. And a scary thing to play into if you haven't got the experience playing into it yet, and really hard to get quality reps into when you're trying to practice against. Say if you're Team USA, how do you practice against this? Do you have someone on that build that can practice it? Or if you're Poland or something like that, right? So a tricky beast. I would love to find out if Nico is happy about his run, or if he would have taken a different style of guard here. So that's Recon. Then we've got Hammer of the Emperor. And hey, we've got my painted Rogaldorn up for an artwork for a change. Okay, this is my updated Hammer of the Emperor list. Obviously we've had some changes here, but Hammer is in an interesting spot. Hammer really has some swingy damage profiles, and in a meta where swingy damage profiles are probably going to be the death of you or the life of you, that's a tough proposition to be in, right? Take the Knight variants, for example. A lot of your stuff is just going to melt them on 5s. So you're going to have those turns where you're going to push a knife, a Rogaldorn forward. If you don't hit your melter shots on 5s, or if they pass them, if they rotate, then that's going to be a tough call, right? I think Hammer really excels getting up close and personal. And when you've got a meta that can just stand still and doesn't care how close you are, is a tough challenge, right? Not to mention the fact that if you get close to knights and they live, they're going to kill you in melee as well. So that's a bit tough. Then we've got the Abominants, right? The Chaos Knight Abominants. With the Volkite Combustor Flat 3 Dev Wounds, it's actually an ideal profile into the Rogaldorn when you think about it. Rogaldorn's packing that 2+ save, but a lot of these Volkites are just going to wound you on 5s and 6s, so half the damage coming through is going to be Dev Wounds, which you've got almost no save against. So, well, you have no save against, unless you've got some 6+++. So I think Hammer's in a bit of an interesting spot. It doesn't have as much damage as Combined Arms, and it really is better when the meta is a bit more diverse. For example, I think Hammer is great when the meta is kind of a mixture of maybe there's one or two other Hull armies in the game that aren't anywhere near as popular as the 3 we have now. And then it's like a bunch of kind of rhinos, dudes and rhinos, kind of melee armies that are staging into you, combined arms shooting armies that don't have huge damage outputs, because then you can get these turns where your Rogaldorn can go through a wall, advance and shoot, re-rolling, overwatch, then live, and then fall back and shoot. And that's really where Hammer needs to operate to be successful. So I've got, for this list, Ghosts, 2 Rogaldorns, 10 Cadians, 20 Catachan, Krieg Heavy Weapon Team. You could swap that out for something if you really felt like it. Unit of 3 Ogrins, 10 Aquilons. I quite like them, and against Death Guarded Knights, I feel like that would be a good thing to go for. A Hellhound, Lemurus Battle Tank, Exterminator, just a classic combo right there. But once again, without rerolls, it's going to be without lethal. Sorry, it's going to be a lot more swingy there. I think the Exterminator Lemurus Battle Tank is kind of a nice combo against Halvrins at the moment, though, because wounding on 3s is kind of good. Scout Sentinel and 2 Tauroxes. So we've got a little bit of mission play with the 2 Tauroxes, but I think the meta at the moment is actually tankier and more stat checkier than Hammer can really survive. And Hammer used to be a bit of a stat check, speed, tanky style of list, and would catch people off guard in doing so, right? But now everyone is ticked for killing these knights, Death Guard. Ripping through a Rogaldorn is actually not too much of a challenge in a meta where people are prepared for killing big vehicles that have 26 wounds. So that's my Hammer of the Emperor list. I've got a losing matchup against all of the top armies, Probably good against Thousand Suns, I can see that. And a losing matchup against Space Marines, and probably most, if not all, variants here. I'm primarily thinking Ultramarines when I'm thinking this, by the way. Okay, so where do they kind of stand? In a singles environment here. For me, I would say definitely combine arms if we were to play the meta tomorrow with Death Guard and Knights still in the meta. Now, maybe on WTC, I would play Nassim's style list, but on UKTC and GW, I would have a much heavier shooting back in because those boards are way more open. So that's what I would play for a stable meta if you're playing a tournament tomorrow. Now, if the meta does change a lot, I actually think Hammer of the Emperor probably has some of a good upside. Now, I've got us a second best list for a singles environment, but don't get me wrong, there's a big difference between first, second, third equal here, in my opinion. So, the Hammer of the Emperor has some upside, especially if the meta as a whole becomes less stat checky. Hammer of the Emperor will get a lot of value there. Next up, we've got Recon Element. I've got it third equal with Mechanized Assault. I used to have Mechanized Assault as the best guard build, so it has fallen really far. Recon Element is going to provide a lot of swingy games for you, particularly because you're going to have some matchups that are binary, which will have almost no player agency determining whether or not you can win or lose there. So, I wouldn't recommend Recon Element for a singles environment. Lastly, we've got Mechanized Assault, and this probably has the biggest upswing potential. If we go from a meta that has Knights and Death Guard dominating, and we go into a meta that's, maybe Aeldari favored, right? Because, let's face it, they're super strong at the moment. Then I could see Mechanized Assault being a lot better. Suddenly, when you've got a format where you can trade one-to-one with units, Mechanized Assault becomes really, really powerful because there's a huge amount of play and player agency available to it. So I could hopefully see Mechanized Assault getting a big glow up there. Okay, guys, that's been my State of Guard. Let me know what your thoughts were if you found the WTC information interesting. Let me know what you're playing at the moment. I'm going to be getting back into Guard a little bit, although I've got 2 tournaments in September, and depending on what the changes in the game are, I might be on Guard, but I might be on Marines as well. Okay, guys, that's been me. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the 40k Fireside. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, drop us a comment, check out the YouTube members area, and we look forward to seeing you again next time by the Fireside.